Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Wednesday's show. Oh my God, take a look at this. DC Films reset adds more confusion for Warner Brothers slate by Aaron Crouch of The Hollywood Reporter. We'll get into it very shortly. Aaron Crouch is one of the most reliable journalists in entertainment media over in Hollywood. Now, that's not saying much. No disrespect to you, Aaron. I do respect you. I do like you. And actually, I think you followed me for about 5 minutes until I must have offended you about something and my takes about the industry. You know, full disclosure, I was out in Hollywood, Aaron, for 6 months. I went to all the parties, so I know where all the bodies are buried. Look, I don't think about what I say. I react on emotion and passion. It's what I do on this channel. You know, warts and all. But yes, Aaron Crouch is a very reliable journalist. And when you look at the other entertainment media in Hollywood, they're too busy brown-nosing directors, actors, CEOs of studios, you know, rather than doing the job they should be doing, informing the public. I see it on Twitter and it makes me sick. I mean, even if you look at someone, a YouTuber, a TikToker like Soups, he's followed by all the directors because he kisses their ass. He's followed by The Rock. You know, he kisses The Rock's butt, so The Rock kisses his butt back. This is not informative. This is not journalism. These are not the people I trust, but I do trust Aaron Crouch. So let's get into this article. As we already know, if you've been here before, I don't proofread my articles. So it's going to be a bit of a magical mystery tour. As we get to one take of Aaron's, I will put the article down, explain to you my opinion, and tell you if I agree or disagree. So, after David Zaslav shelved Batgirl and declared a new 10-year plan is in the works, the future of the comic book powerhouse is less clear than it has been in years. Let me be clear about this first and foremost. I like the idea of a DC Studios being implemented in a 10-year plan, but without you telling me who's going to be part of the building blocks of that DC Studios, who's going to be the president of the DC Studios, and what your slate is, how can I trust you? It's no good you just telling me there's a 10-year plan. I need to know who's in charge. I need to know who's going to be running this. And, by the way, this gets messier because at this moment in time, nobody knows the fate and future of Walter Hamada. We must make the huge assumption that he's gone. But right now, he's still the president of DC Films. A ridiculous mess of a situation. We've done a reset. That's how Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav described DC on August 4th. Days after he made the call to shelve the $90 million HBO Max film Batgirl. The mogul said they'd now be a team that would create a 10-year plan for DC, although who's on that team is unclear. And this is the problem. Again, that's a great bit of journalism there for Aaron to add that in. We don't know who's part of that team. Why should I get excited? You know, the DCEU is, if you want to get into business, if you want to start a business or a movie franchise or even a television series, if you want to know how not to do it, just look at the initiation of the DCEU. Look at Man of Steel, look at Batman versus Superman. Great movies, in my opinion, as they are. You know, Zack Snyder himself has said he doesn't care about the mainstream commercial audience. Well, mate, no disrespect. As much as I love you and love your content, what the fuck are you doing running a DC franchise in the first place? Obviously, he ain't there anymore because it wasn't working out. Because Warner Brothers never wanted someone to do, you know, hot takes or, you know, arty movies, as beautiful as they are, and they'll definitely last the test of time, and I love them. But it's not what was needed, and it wasn't what was asked for. But the previous leadership at Warner Brothers are to blame for this. They didn't want what Snyder was doing, but from the outside looking in at first, they kind of thought, all right, let's see how we get on here. But with Man of Steel, the suits of Warner Brothers at the time and Jeff Johns were trying to get into the set. And, you know, Christopher Nolan was protecting Zack. You know, he wouldn't allow them to interfere. So you've got a studio who wants to do faithful adaptations of stuff, but brings in Christopher Nolan and auteur and Zack Snyder and auteur. Let's be honest here, it was never going to work. Well, anyway, that's the past, and today we're talking about the present and the future. And Zaslav took digs at former Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar's strategy of developing straight-to-streaming films. We are going to focus on quality. We are not going to release any film before it's ready, said the executive. DC is something we can make better. Again, this is a huge statement from David Zaslav. The problem is, I can tell you I'm the best lover in the world. Of course I can. I can tell you I've got the hugest ding-dong and I can satisfy you, and I've satisfied people before. But without you seeing the goods, without you knowing I'm the best lover in the world, it's just talk. David Zaslav says, we will make DC better. We will protect the DC brand. Prove it. Prove it, because right now the mess continues. Walter Hamada, nobody knows his position. The Ezra Miller situation is beyond calamitous. And we go on. Is Henry Cavill still Superman? These are things, right, David? You've been here for quite a few months now. Whatever else you were doing with DC Studios and everything else, and I agree with all your decisions thus far, you should have got in there with the Cavill situation. Henry, are you going to be Superman? No, I want creative control. Fuck off then. Right, we're bringing in a new Superman. Aaron Butler, you were... Is Aaron? Whatever his name is, right? It's not Aaron Butler. I forgot his name. Butler, the young lad who played Elvis Presley. Right, Mr. Butler, you're a great Elvis Presley. Are you 6 foot? Can you dye your hair black? Can you put kind of blue contact lenses in your eyes? Let's go! Action, everyone. We want action. We're not getting action. Is The Flash going to be released? We don't know, because no one's going to tell us, right? Barbara Machete, producer, sister to the director. You'll get a trailer. 2 months ago. You'll get a trailer soon. A couple of days ago, she goes, all is well in Flashland. Is it, Babs? Is it? The remarks were not well received inside DC, according to multiple insiders who used the same word to describe members of the film division. Pissed. And DC Films president Walter Hamada nearly exited after learning of the shelving of Batgirl, before being convinced to stay on at least until October the 21st release of Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. That film had a June test screening, including a new post-credits scene introducing a new element to Johnson's place in the DC universe. Now, this is interesting. First of all, let's talk about the first bit. People at DC Films Division and TV Division and WB are not happy with Zaslav's decisions. I'm very happy with Zaslav's decisions. He needs to make more decisions like that. I couldn't give a shit if people at DC and WB, Toby Emmerich's people and Walter Hamada's people and Walter Hamada himself are not happy about these decisions. It doesn't change my mind that Zaslav made the right calls here, right? They were green-lighting and green-lighting and green-lighting mediocrity. We'll talk about the Green Lantern Corps streaming show later on. Maybe this article covers it. I hope so. I'll have to go to another one. So I don't give a shit. Now, let's talk about this new post-credit scene that Aaron is talking about here. Apparently, they've reshot a brand new one. So originally, we knew, and members of the production and cast of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker let it out that actually James Gunn's good wife, who plays Amelia Hardcore, comes with Task Force X in a post-credit scene at the end of Black Adam originally and kidnaps Black Adam, which means he would join James Gunn's kind of arena of the DCEU, which is the Suicide Squad universe. It looks like that's not happening anymore. It looks like they've shot something else, or is it the same thing? We'll have to wait and see. I have not seen this post-credit scene. I don't know about this post-credit scene, but we can start guessing about it. What is Black Adam's new place in the DCEU? I believe it's either to set up a Shazam, face-off, or it's something where if they don't want to, we don't have to see him again. Maybe it's that, because basically Zaslav's going to be looking at this. I will deal with you, Black Adam and The Rock, when we see the box office for this film. Before Warner's sale to Discovery, Hamada was gearing up to release 3 or 4 films a year. The executive was brought on in 2018 to chart a new course for DC after a roadmap spearheaded by Zack Snyder imploded in the wake of the disastrous release of Justice League in 2017. Hamada's plans were said to have included a Crisis on Infinite Earths event, a take on the seminal DC Comics story that was adapted for TV on the CW. Rumours circulated about introducing the Secret Six, a villain team that in the comics have been Suicide Squad's antagonists. More concretely, Warner's had films based on Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps and Static Shock expected, right? Let's look at this. So, a Supergirl movie, as I said yesterday, was never green-lit. Static Shock was definitely in development. I don't know what's going to happen in that. You know, with that, I would say don't hold your breath. Now, in terms of the Crisis on Infinite Earths, we know more than that, than what Aaron's spoken about here. We know they were doing a final Crisis arc. The whole idea of this was going to be set up at the end of the Flash movie when Batfleck comes to Barry Allen and says, you need to save us, you need to help us. They're stuck somewhere else, like aka Henry Cavill's Superman, Batfleck and whoever else. The idea was to do a final Crisis movie, not only to set up the new DCEU and to continue that thread from the Flash movie and Batgirl, it was to finish off Zack Snyder's arc. There was even a rumour that Zack was going to direct this movie, something else that won't happen now. In the next few years plus, a J.J. Abrams produced Black Superman film from writer Tanashi Coates' development has slowed, with none of those features attaching directors. In other words, don't expect any of those things to happen. J.J. Abrams and Tanashi Coates' Black Superman is dead. They may take that project and make it something else. Nobody asked for a Black Clark Kent when we got President Superman and Val Zod, which you can adapt any time. You can have a white Superman, Clark Kent. You can have President Superman and Val Zod standing together in a shared universe adventure. Wouldn't that be real inclusion and representation? But we know Hollywood doesn't do true inclusion and representation. Some key collaborators have received assurances that their projects are safe. The Suicide Squad filmmaker James Gunn has multiple projects in development at DC, including Season 2 of Peacemaker, which is moving forward. Insiders say Blue Beetle starring Xolo Maridueña as DC's first Latino superhero to top-line a movie is also on track for its August 2023 release date. Now, I agree with this. Aaron is dead on. Blue Beetle, as soon as it had a release date, was safe. That came directly from Zaslav. He was the one who made the decision to move it from HBO Max and into movie theatres. He wanted to do the same thing with Batgirl. He did not want to axe Batgirl. It just was not of the quality to move to theatres, and he didn't want to chuck more money at these directors and this terrible script by Christina Hodson. So there's that. So, after Batgirl's cancellation, observers had feared for the project, given that it at one time was slated for an HBO Max before being upgraded to theatrical. And that's what saved it. The studio is also moving full steam ahead with sequel to Joker, with Lady Gaga confirming her casting the morning of the Warner Brothers Discovery earnings call. That was never going anywhere. These are billion-dollar movies, potentially. Zaslav turned heads when, among DC's upcoming films, he highlighted on an early earnings call not only Black Adam and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, but also The Flash, starring the embattled actor Ezra Miller. We've seen them, we think they are terrific, and we think we can make them even better. Yes, that means he doesn't think they're terrific, and those films are in big trouble. Let's see what they do with them. Probably all going to be delayed as well. Let's see, before I speak out of turn. Zaslav said of those films, the optics were not good, coming days after axing Batgirl, which would have been the first DC Extended Universe film to star a Latina Leslie Grace. I respect you. I really do respect you, Aaron. I really do. But it doesn't matter that she's a Latina. It's the quality of the film. The first mission of entertainment is to be entertaining. Then the second mission is for representation and inclusion. It should never be the number one thing. I don't give a shit if she's a Latina. I like Leslie Grace. I feel bad for Leslie Grace. She must be looking over at Ezra Miller and saying that so-and-so still gets to keep his job as far as we know right now, and I don't. Why is that? That's not fair, and it's not. But business is business. It's not about Leslie. It's not about the directors. It's about the strategy they want to take. I believe that much anyway. Work has kept up on The Flash, which has been testing well, allegedly. Miller participated in regularly scheduled additional photography over the summer, apparently without incident, before being charged with burglary. Their third arrest this year. Now let's talk about this as well, because our friends, well, they're no friends of mine, at Flash Movie News and everything else, Batgirl News, you know, these aggressive shills who couldn't believe Batgirl wasn't being released, and they said this is BS, and it wasn't anyway. They're propaganda merchants anyway. The Flash Film News was saying that this was an incident that happened in May, trying to lessen the effect of the situation, so the Flash movie can be released with Ezra Miller. It doesn't matter, Flash Film News, when he committed the crime. This is his third arrest, let alone the alleged throttling of a young woman in Iceland, let alone chucking a chair at another young woman. There's no way forward with Ezra Miller. I don't want to hate on Ezra, but the things that he's being accused of, they're coming thick and fast. There's no defending him, and there's no defending this movie. This movie has to be changed. After we finish with Aaron, I'll talk to you about how I would reset the DCEU. This year on August the 7th in Vermont, still neither DC nor Zaslav has indicated the film will move from its June 2023 release date, though insiders say the studio is evaluating all options. So, a very interesting article. He says some interesting things there, and we'll discuss some other things about the DCEU. And after I read a couple of more articles, we'll get into how I would fix the DCEU. I've mentioned a couple of things, but this is a different way of doing it. It's kind of keeping the DCEU, but binning it as a central franchise. In other words, it can be somewhere else, right? And if a certain person who's literally had their stuff greenlit and is part of the DCEU can play with that world whenever he wants. Anyway, we'll talk about it very shortly. Well, look at this. This is from Mickey Sutton at Geekosity. Warner Brothers discovery to use Snyderverse timeline in DCEU. Now, full disclaimer, we don't know what the hell is going on. Sutton may know something, he may not. He's not that reliable, to be honest now. Like me, he's a huge fan of the Snyderverse, so he could be a little bit biased putting 2 and 2 together and getting 200. We'll wait and see. So, let's go. Warner Brothers Discovery will keep the Snyderverse timeline for the DCEU. Per YouTube personality Seal Abdul, CEO David Zaslav will not reboot the DCEU. So, obviously there's some truth to this right now, because James Gunn's The Suicide Squad universe is part of the DCEU, and he's going to allow him to do his projects. But I have a way around this, and we'll talk about it later on. Instead, Zack Snyder's Justice League is canon. Moreover, this includes Snyder's previous DC work such as Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. Moving forward, the DCEU will ignore Joss Whedon's chastised version of Justice League. Shocked? Actually, the pieces of the puzzle are in plain sight. On July 28th, I covered Abdul's leak about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Abdul revealed that Ben Affleck's Batman would replace Michael Keaton's Dark Knight in the sequel. On the surface, shifting release dates made it necessary. After all, The Flash explained why Keaton suddenly appears in the DCEU. But Warner Brothers Discovery changed release dates suddenly. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom now comes out before The Flash. Therefore, Keaton's presence will confuse audiences. Consequently, the studio pulls out Keaton and brings back Affleck. So, let's keep reading. Nevertheless, you can't simply exchange Affleck for Keaton. Why not? Indeed, the script will still bewilder moviegoers, especially the multiverse talk. But there won't be any multiverse talk because it's Affleck instead of Keaton. So what are you talking about? Anyway, on the other hand, Abdul explained that the script wants a Batman. Yeah, they obviously have changed the script for the Batfleck scenes instead of the Keaton scenes. Think about it. You're kind of sending this the way you want it to go. Anyway, obviously the story is headed to a different narrative, obviously. One that requires Affleck. Have agreed to the cameo if he didn't have other DC projects lined up. Moreover, Abdul explained that Zaslav chose Affleck because he wanted to keep the timeline. Right, let's just stop this right here. I think temporarily they're going to stick with the Snyderverse timeline. It doesn't mean they're going to stick with this timeline forever. It doesn't mean they're sticking with the DCEU forever. This could be a temporary thing until they get their shit together over at DC Studios. Anyway, the day after I published Abdul's story, Aquaman star Jason Momoa confirmed Affleck's appearance via Instagram. In a flash, it became official. This is true. At the time, sources told me that Zaslav didn't want to pursue the Flashpoint timeline. I wrote, Warner Brothers Discovery wants to reload and not reboot the DCEU. Right. Snyderverse stands do not want this franchise rebooted because it means the Snyderverse won't ever be restored. As I say, temporarily the DCEU may stay in flux with the Snyderverse timeline, but if you're hoping this is going to be a permanent full-time move, don't bet your bottom dollar. Because after Gunn's projects and after they get their shit together at DC Studios, I think things will change with a new franchise. That's what I think they're going to do. Shortly thereafter, Zaslav shelved the Batgirl movie. With one strike, Zaslav dealt a huge blow to the Flashpoint timeline, which we know he doesn't like. The Flashpoint timeline is former DC Films president Walter Hamada's post-Snyderverse continuity, where Henry Cavill's Superman and Affleck's Batman apparently no longer exist. Abdul's latest reporting fits perfectly with what we're seeing on August the 3rd. I covered Abdul's claim that Warner Brothers Discovery wants to shelve Sasha Calle's Supergirl movie, a movie that never existed and never was in development. In fact, Abdul beat Rolling Stone to it by a week, but Rolling Stone, I'm afraid, can't be trusted too much on movie news at the very least. They're more like celebrity news, and, you know, as I say, take things with a pinch of salt. Abdul added that Zaslav had three options. First, he could have followed Whedon's Justice League. Secondly, he had the opportunity to reboot everything with the Flashpoint timeline. Lastly, use the Snyderverse timeline. Zaslav selected the latter temporarily. And by the way, we don't actually know if he doesn't use a new reboot mechanism in the Flash movie when they reshoot it, if that's what they're going to do, and reset a brand new timeline for the DC live-action universe, which still makes James Gunn's Suicide Squad universe canon. Be careful what you assume. Make no assumptions here, because nobody knows what Zaslav and this new team at DC Studios are thinking. In the end, the evidence is everywhere. The Shazam Fury of the Gods trailer utilised footage from Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's very true. As I say, temporarily, they're going to stick with the Snyderverse timeline. That's for sure. Marketing or not, the old regime would have never permitted that. Warner Brothers Discovery is one step closer to restore the Snyderverse. I don't agree. As Zaslav saves the timeline, this goes back to what I originally said on June 26, 2021. Beyond this, the Cavill talk grows louder. Ray Fisher's list of foes grows slimmer after Hamada's exit. Once the actors are reunited, only one person remains missing. Stay tuned. And yes, no, because Ezra Miller's a problem as well. This whole thing is problematic. So even though Sutton here, Mickey Sutton, wants to make the big assumption, because it's what he wants, that the Snyderverse is going to be restored, something I wouldn't be upset about totally. But I think when you look at it as a business and as a brand, we have to start again. And I think temporarily, this is what they're going to do. Stick with the Snyderverse timeline. But as I said earlier, don't make the assumption that this is going to happen forever. This is not what may happen. This is a temporary thing until they get their shit together. But what would I do with what, if I was a president of a DC studio, if David Zaslav kindly said, Mick, I've seen your videos, you should run DC studios. What should we do with this fucking mess? I'd say, sit down, David, let me buy you a steak. I'm sure you like a steak. I like a steak. I haven't had a steak forever. I want my pepper sauce. Let's talk. Right. We used the Flashpoint movie as a faithful adaptation, right, to Flashpoint. As I spoke about yesterday, we reset everything. We start again. But because you've allowed James Gunn to continue in the DCEU, right, so what you do is, right, you say that James Gunn can play with any DCEU character he wants within streaming, within HBO Max. He can do what he wants. The DCEU will still be a thing on a streaming service. It doesn't mean there'll be active projects to spin off from that, but if James Gunn, who's still part of this universe, wants to play with Henry Cavill's Superman or Ray Fisher's Cyborg or whatever, he can. But centrally, the DCEU would no longer exist after a 3-hour epic, faithful adaptation of Flashpoint. That's what I would do. In terms of the central universe, we need to start again. And we've got to forget about everything else. What happened to Zack Snyder was wrong, but at least we got the Snyder Cut. We need to do something fresh and something new, because all DC fans need to be represented here, not just some. And that is the point. If we keep on dragging out the Hamadaverse and the Snyderverse, we are not going to get anywhere here, people. Green Lantern TV show reportedly still moving forward. Delay explained. Right, so this is by Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce, from Screen Rant. As far as I'm concerned, this article is bullshit, and I'll explain to you why I don't think you're ever going to see the Green Lantern Corps streaming show, and it does sound like a very ambitious project. HBO Max's upcoming Green Lantern TV show is still moving forward as new reports reveal what has delayed production on the series for over 2 years. As I say, this is bullshit. Let me explain to you what development means. It means you'll never see it. We're still working on it, yeah? Beard, itchy beard. You're never going to see this. They're not ready to announce the cancellation so soon after the Batgirl meltdown. That's the truth here. HBO Max's upcoming Green Lantern TV show is still moving forward. No, it's not. As a new report reveals, what has delayed the production on the series for over 2 years. One of the most highly anticipated DC shows in the works is the live-action Green Lantern series from Arrowverse executive producer Greg Berlanti. What could possibly go wrong? After working on the 2011 Green Lantern movie, yes, so now they're letting him work on another Green Lantern project. Does anyone see anything wrong with that? Berlanti's getting a new chance at bringing the Green Lantern Corps to life, but this time as a TV show with showrunner Seth Grahame-Smith. With Hollywood, and this proves it here, you fail upwards, because no outsiders without entertainment Hollywood DNA are allowed through the golden gates of Hollywood. So the same people keep on getting chance after chance to fail. And Berlanti is an SJW. We already know he's going to use Guy Gardner as an example of toxic masculinity. Won't that be fun, everyone? Well, we're not going to see it, so it's not a problem. After being announced in development in October 2019, Green Lantern scored an official series pickup by HBO Max for 10 episodes in Season 1. Rather than focus on just one member, the Green Lantern series will revolve around multiple iconic members of the DC organization. Now, I like this idea of being in different decades with different lanterns. This is what a Green Lantern Corps show or movie could do and should do, and it's ambitious, but I still don't believe these people can execute this. The Green Lantern Corps characters that have yet to be cast are Simon Baz, Jessica Cruz, Sinestro, Kilowog, and a new player named Bree Jarta. Yes, for SJW and inclusive reasons, they've created a new character. Already we know where this clusterfuck is going. Currently, Green Lantern stars Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner and Jeremy Irvine as Alan Scott. Basically, they've cast 2 people. But you believe what you want. You believe that this show is actually going to happen, as they were previously cast in 2021. However, there has been a lack of news for the DC TV drama, despite having been in the works since 2019. 2019, what a joke. With all the significant changes and cutbacks of Warner Brothers Discovery, there has been concern that the Green Lantern may have been quietly cancelled. But that's not the case. Yes, it is. In a new report by The Hollywood Reporter, the trade reveals that the HBO Max drama is taking so long due to its massive costly production demands. Right, let's look at this. David Zaslav is cutting costs. You should see what he's doing to those poor fuckers at CNN that WB own. So do you really think an expensive Green Lantern core on HBO Max, considering what he's already said about HBO Max and what he's willing to greenlight and not, I don't think this is going to happen. I think that this will be cancelled and we're going to get a Green Lantern movie eventually. So this is bullshit. Anyway, given the major VFX work going into Green Lantern, right, Screen Rant and THR, how can you be talking about complicated VFX work being the reason for a delay? They've cast 2 people. Production hasn't even fucking started. They haven't shot a beam. What has this delay got to do with VFX demands? Fuck all, nothing. It's a lie. It's a delay tactic. All involved are taking their time with the effects heavy show in order to get it right. But there are no effects to do yet. There's nothing been shot. You've cast 2 actors. Bullshit. Given how many more characters they have left to cast than the 2024 release date, basically they've delayed it. I know they never gave it a release date, but they've delayed it to here so they can delay the actual project later on. You wait. Green Lantern Season 1 will likely at this point start shooting in 2023. Again, this is guesswork. There's no official date to start shooting this production, so how can you be thinking about VFX, right? You want to get your teams in place, but you haven't even shot anything. I think he's just about completed the Season 1 finale, the showrunner. It doesn't make any sense. Despite the understandable frustration among fans, Warner Brothers Discovery is doing the right thing by taking its time to get things right before rolling the cameras. Right, this was delayed. This was taking its time before Zaslav and Discovery got involved. So taking their time, no. This project will not happen. If this project happened, I quite willingly will sit here, I'll take my laptop outside and do an ice bucket challenge if I'm wrong. I say this all the time to you and I'm hardly wrong. But if I'm wrong and this project happens, I will do the dare and I will give it the money to charity gladly. Because you will never see these people's Green Lantern core on HBO Max, but you will see eventually in development a Green Lantern movie after they cancel this. I can assure you, this is a delay tactic. They are lying. Green Lantern is one of the biggest DC IPs they own, with a large legacy that can help the series span several seasons. It's more interesting that there are updates on the HBO Max show while Warner Brothers is in development. Green Lantern Corps movie hasn't moved forward because there isn't one right now. Since its initial announcement almost 8 years ago, there's no movie. They lied. They used this as a lie to swipe the Green Lantern that Zack was going to use in the Snyder Cut, and we all know that. Mark Guggenheim, one of the writers on Green Lantern, now he's a great comic book guy, but he was also involved in Arrowverse. But he was involved from the beginning of Arrow, which was a great show. He helped alongside Jeff Johns and Berlanti, develop a great show in its inception. So he's a good guy, he's a talented guy, but these people can never stick the landing, and we know that. Mark Guggenheim, one of the writers on Green Lantern, confirmed recently that the Season 1 finale script was being written back in June. Once the writing is completed, now don't forget, he's got to send these scripts to be accepted by Zaslav and DC Studios. This could still be rejected. This is in its early stages. I don't believe we're ever going to see this. It might speed up the pace on the remaining BTS factors. There's no BTS factors. There's no behind the scenes stuff. Well, if you're talking about the production, fair enough. They've cast 2 people. So they haven't done anything. such as completing the main cast and pre-production before filming kicks off. Even though Green Lantern has taken longer than many expected, it will be worth it in the long run. No, it won't, because you're never going to see this series. To make these characters live-action treatment the best one possible. Unlike Berlanti's other DC series on HBO Max, Strange Adventures, which was recently cancelled, Green Lantern will move forward and hopefully have more updates in months to come. Now, Strange Adventures, I think, is a bit like What If? And he was going to do it with Kevin Smith. I'm so happy that's been cancelled because we all know what they were going to do with it, and Zaslav put the spoke in it. He's obviously not willing to cancel this until he takes a deeper look at this project. I think the way Zaslav will look at this and say, right guys, we need to take this to movie form, then make the decision if these hacks should be involved with the movie. That's my opinion on that. Now Andy here, let's just say, is very, very biased towards these people and Arrowverse. So he's given them the benefit of the doubt. The Hollywood Reporter have given some kind of, because they spoke to, I think, someone from HBO Max and saying it's still in active development. You know, there's lots of things still in active development that you'll never see, and you're never going to see the HBO Max Green Lantern Corps series, I can assure you of that. DC shows like Titans, Harley Quinn, and more reportedly safe on HBO Max. Let me explain something to you. Nothing is safe. They're going to go from season to season and see how it plays out with these shows. Now, I like these shows. I want them to last. But at the end of the day, you know, these are just whispers from the studio. Zaslav is, you know, he's blocking the leaks. Nobody really knows anything. You can hear whispers about this and put 2 and 2 together and get 600. It doesn't mean you actually know anything. So nothing is safe. Let's be clear about that. Because Emmerich is gone, Hamada is going. So that means new people are making the decisions. That means you can't rely on anything. Despite the many cancellations from Warner Brothers Discovery, by the way, many cancellations, it's been Wonder Twins, the thing we spoke about from Berlanti and Kevin Smith, and Wonder Twins, that show, and Batgirl. That's all that's been cancelled. 3 things. So they're talking about many things being cancelled. It's literally 3 things that deserve to be cancelled. DC shows like Titans and Harley Quinn are reportedly still safe on HBO Max. Going forward, again, by biased Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce, from Screen Rant. Despite the many cancellations from Warner Brothers Discovery, DC shows like Titans and Harley Quinn are reportedly safe on HBO Max. As I say, these things are judged on views and ratings from season to season. So if like Titan's been greenlit, it's happening, right? The next season, right? If Harley's been greenlit for a season 4, it's probably safe. But any future seasons are not safe. That's not how series television has worked since it's begun and will never work. Warner Brothers Discovery has been making the headlines over the last week as a merged company continues to deal with the aftermath of its merger. Despite having finished principal photography on it back in March, the highly anticipated this guy's an SJW, movie was cancelled by Warner Brothers Discovery, something that sent a wave through Hollywood. The HBO Max movie was set to star Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon and follow her origin story of becoming Gotham City's newest protector, Batgirl. In light of the shocking Batgirl decision, it has now caused concerns and inquiries by fans in Hollywood if various DC projects are still happening. Whether new or ongoing among those projects live, whatever he's saying there, the live-action series Titans and the animated Harley Quinn show. Titans Season 4 is currently filming Episode 12, which will be its season finale in Toronto, Canada. In the meantime, Harley Quinn Season 3 premiered a few weeks ago after having been on a massive hiatus since 2020. Despite the speculations that either shows or additional DC properties are in danger at HBO Max, TV Line has clarified what's going on for the future. You don't know, TV Line! You're guesstimating of some of the properties. In their new report, the site hears that HBO Max shows like Titans and Harley Quinn are reportedly not going anywhere. It depends on their ratings and their views season per season. You cannot make promises like this. Despite Warner Bros. Discovery's big 10-year plan for DC films, the outlet reports that HBO Max's IP drive DC-based fare remains a huge priority. What that means for something like Doom Patrol, which just wrapped production on season 4, remains to be seen. Exactly, right? It's just wrapped its latest season. You will see the season it's wrapped. And if the viewers are watching and everyone's excited and it's doing well, it will be back for a season 5. Same with Harley, same with Titans. The stuff that's in the can is safe. Remains to be seen, but it wouldn't be shocking for it to be included, given its massive popularity. While Titans season 5 has yet to be announced, there were already clues that Harley Quinn season 4 has been quietly renewed for 2023. Right, listen to me. There's no quiet renewals. Renewals are very loud. If Harley gets a season 4, we know about it. At this moment in time, Harley Quinn doesn't have a season 4. Titans and Harley Quinn are just the latest clarification. There's no clarification. You're living off whispers. Basically, these people are not in contact with David Zaslav, who's taking a hands-on approach here. They know nothing about the status of DC-related HBO Max projects. Despite the lack of news for almost a year, the highly anticipated Green Lantern TV show is still in the works. No, it's not. With a 10-episode order for season 1, that's an old order from different leadership, so don't hold your breath. Also set to be on HBO Max Original, was confirmed to still be in active development, with Journey Smollett reprising the role of Dinah Lance. We'll talk about that in a separate article because I'm calling bullshit on that. Here comes Mr. Bias. Even if DC shows like Strange Adventures aren't going forward, it's still good to know that properties like Titans and Harley Quinn are still considered part of HBO Max's future. The only future is the stuff in the can. Stop misinforming people. While every show eventually ends, both DC TV shows are still relatively early in their run. It's also worth noting that both shows have had their platforms jumbled as they started as DC Universe originals before moving to HBO Max for their following seasons. As HBO Max originals, they have had short runs but still been popular with viewers and critics. Until said otherwise, fans can look forward to new episodes of Harley Quinn Season 3 every Thursday, while Titans Season 4 is set to premiere on HBO Max later this fall. Yes, it's in the can, they're safe. So yes, Andy is very, very biased. We will get into the final aspect of today's show, and that's the Black Canary movie, which I have a lot to say about, and is not safe whatsoever. In terms of these shows, yes, they're ready to go, they're in the can. This is not breaking news, but what they're not telling you and how they're trying to spin it is, it's all good for the future. It's not. If these shows have shit ratings in their next seasons, then they won't get another one. That's how serious television works, whether you're a streaming show or a network show. End of story. And finally today, Black Canary HBO Max movie still happening despite Batgirl cancellation. No, it's not. Guess who wrote the article, everyone? Andy, whose surname I can never pronounce. He's very, very biased and he's an SJW journalist and he lost his shit with the Batgirl cancellation. Let's be clear. Now, before I start reading this bullshit, let's get into something. The Black Canary movie is a spin-off from a flop. From a movie that didn't make the studio any money. This is the point David Zaslav is making. For years and from leadership to leadership, Warner Brothers hasn't made money, real money, on its cinematic DC fare, or most things they've released. They've barely made any billion-dollar temples. The DCEU hasn't worked. This is why he's cost-cutting, because he has to. If it was up to them and that old leadership was still there, who knows where this studio would be? Zaslav is making the right decisions. Imagine greenlighting a spin-off movie called Black Canary with that actress from the Birds of Prey movie that flopped. This is what extremist broadcasting and entertainment and movies do. They don't care about the profitability. We have got a woman of colour as Black Canary, and whether you like it or not, you're going to get her in a movie. Now, I liked Journey Smollett as Black Canary in Birds of Prey. She was one of the few good things that were good, and you could say she kind of deserves this. and we've got a really good writer-director involved in this project, but I don't believe it's going forward. Despite many cancellations, 3 or 4, going on at Warner Brothers Discovery, the Black Canary movie is still in the works with Journey Smollett's Birds of Prey hero. August has been a controversial month for Warner Brothers Discovery, and only a few months after the completion of the merger, last week the new version of the studio made the shocking decision, it wasn't shocking and I warned everyone about it, to cancel the Batgirl movie starring Leslie Grace despite having wrapped principal photography in late March. Warner Brothers Discovery made the decision to scrap it entirely, which has sent a shockwave through Hollywood, basically word for word of what he said in his previous article anyway. WB's sudden decision has caused fans to speculate if other previously announced DC movies and even TV shows are still happening. One of those projects is the Black Canary movie, which, like Batgirl, is set to be an HBO Max original. Now, don't forget, this hasn't started shooting or casting, and like Batgirl, it doesn't have a release date. So Max Original planned a spin-off from Birds of Prey, a flop. Black Canary revolves around Journey Smollett's heroine Diana Lance after the events of the 2020 movie. First announced in 2021, Black Canary is being written by Misha Green, who has collaborated with Smollett previously on Lovecraft Country. So basically, Green is a very talented creative. It was amazing that they got her involved. I can't see it happening. With very brief updates, exactly, this is the point, the year. So with very brief updates throughout the year, Black Canary's fate has been in question. In a new report from TV Line, the site confirms that the spin-off movie is still in development. Let me explain to you what in development means. It's basically an entertainment industry phrase. What's going on with Birds of Prey? What's going on with the Green Lantern Corps streaming show? Don't worry, guys. It's all in development. It's happening. I promise. Maybe. One day. Probably. Probably not. All of this means is they're not ready to announce that it's not happening. This is not happening, and nor is the Green Lantern Corps TV show. You wait and see. It's still in development. As a Warner Brothers Pictures spokesperson confirmed that Black Canary is going forward despite the many cancellations occurring lately with the studio. While Black Canary is still confirmed to happen, don't forget this spokesman said it's in development. I've explained to you what that means. Despite the many cancellations occurring lately with the studio, while Black Canary is still confirmed to happen, HBO Max nor Warner Brothers would disclose any potential release date window when the movie may go into principal photography. Because guess what? It's not. It's still understandable for fans and members of the press to be curious if something like Black Canary is still going forward. After Batgirl was cancelled, despite filming being finished, she's mentioned that again, it did put a lot of other projects into question as anything could be getting scrapped. Behind the scenes, one DC series that was in the work for HBO Max was Strange Adventures, which was cancelled, according to Kevin Smith, who had co-written an episode for the drama. The Green Lantern TV show is still moving forward. No, it's not. And so far, nothing has been stated about the fate of the Blue Beetle movie, which was moved from HBO Max to a theatrical release. I do believe that there is a future for Blue Beetle. I hope. I don't want to see it cancelled. It looks like it will go forward. If it can make Zaslav money via the theatrical system, nothing will happen to that movie. If he feels it's not good enough, then it could be under threat. The shooting, the production for that movie didn't take very long, which concerns me. The bigger question now about Black Canary is what other characters will star in the film and who will actually direct the DC picture. Given that Black Canary was one of the most well-received characters in Birds of Prey, it's true. It makes sense for the studio to go forward with it on HBO Max. In the comics, Dinah has always been one of the most popular Justice League characters, and it would be a waste for Warner Brothers not to use Smollett more in the DCEU, if there is a DCEU going forward, which I think eventually there won't be. Given the popularity of the Spiderhead star, hopefully with this confirmation that Black Canary is still a go, more news will begin to emerge in the coming months. I'm all over Twitter all day and I see all these kind of foreign-speaking DC sites and everyone saying, this is safe, yeah, this is safe, this is safe. All a bunch of shills who don't know how this industry works. Everything is under threat right now. Nothing is safe, not the upcoming movies, not all these TV series and movies on HBO Max claiming to be safe. Nothing is safe. Anything can fall under Zaslav's axe, because this is a studio in financial meltdown, as I keep on saying, that hasn't been run properly, everyone, and he's looking at this from content to content. The DCEU situation is very interesting. Now, Daniel RPK, someone I don't really trust, but anyway, Daniel RPK reckons that a lot of these movies are being considered to be delayed, reshot, and rewritten. Daniel can be very accurate, but sometimes he's very, very wrong. That's what happens when you're a scooper. But I do agree with him. I think that's what's going to happen. But at this moment in time, it's just guesswork, everyone. Look, the whole franchise is an utter mess, and Zaslav is trying to sort it out. He's trying to sort out a mess. I will just reiterate before I end today's show, because we're going on for over 50 minutes. Wow, this is going to take a lifetime to what's the word? Upload, that's the word I'm looking for. When you're speaking for 50 minutes, you get a bit confused. But anyway, yeah. So I think, listen, for the time being, we're going to remain within the Snyderverse timeline. That does not mean we're restoring the Snyderverse. I could be wrong about that. They just want to buy themselves some time until they get DC Studios up and running, announce a new slate, and start making and producing content for that new slate. We will eventually go to a new franchise, resetting everything. Zaslav has already said this, that they're resetting things over at the newly formed DC Studios, and this, my friends, is the correct decision. This has been Wednesday's edition of my show here on Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you on Thursday's show. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. See you later. Thank you very much, everyone. Please come again.